Hi sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Beth, and if you're new, welcome. I did not think I'd be posting a video, but I'm visiting my daughter and I ran into this quilt I made for her a long time ago, a snowball quilt, and I'll be just going over how I made those snowballs today. I ended up having more time on my hands here visiting than I thought, so we went to the thrift store to buy some fabric. I came without any of my sewing supplies. I do have a sewing machine. That's about it. So I went to the thrift store and I found some fabric and I'm going to make a quilt. I not only found fabric, but I also found a couple of fun knitting books. It's always fun to go to the thrift store. You just never know what you're going to run into. So I found this cotton, just a tan cotton. I think there's about 2 yards there. I found some pillowcases that I think will go with the color scheme that I tried to figure out while I was there in the thrift store. I had to buy, I think, 5 items to make my quilt. So here's a little plaid shirt from the little boys section. I was trying to go for the lowest price. I don't get as much fabric there, but here's another pillowcase. And these colors are kind of orange, rust, brown, and here's a little bit, some blue from a men's shirt that was actually on sale. So I was able to get half off that $8.99. And then my daughter has some fabric, and this I did not end up using. It's a beautiful piece of fabric, but I didn't use that for my quilt. And then there's a dress that they were getting rid of here at the house, and I'm going to use some of that gray cotton. So we're going old school since I do not have my sewing supplies. I do have a sewing machine, but I don't have any supplies with me. So I'm going to make a template with some cardboard. My little squares are 5 inches, and I didn't even have some good scissors, so I'm using these paper scissors to cut my fabric and just barely able to cut my squares, but it's going to work. I'm hoping we're going to get a quilt out of this. Now I'm cutting my snowball corners. These squares are about 1.5 inches, and since I do not have sewing supplies and things just can't be exact, I'm just eyeballing the squares, and I know that this is gonna come together. The seams will not match exactly, but I've done this kind of snowball before and I really like the way it turns out, so I'm just gonna go for it and use what I have and make a quilt. So I'll be sewing small squares in each corner of these larger squares, four dark little pieces in the light colored squares and 4 light colored squares in my darker fabrics. Like I said, I'm traveling and I don't have all of my stuff. There is an iron at the house, at my daughter's house, but I'm using the counter in the kitchen with a towel, and that's working just fine. So I turned my square over, and I will be using that square as my guide, trimming off the excess and trimming the triangles away from the back. There are 2 little triangles behind that I'll need to trim away so the corners will not be so thick. Once I have all my squares ready to go, I'm going to alternate light and dark, and I'm going to have a beautiful quilt. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.